AI is rewriting the rules for observability. It can propel your business forward, but it magnifies complexity. Working with AI demands more business context, human expertise, and more powerful observability tools. That's why Splunk observes every aspect of your digital environment, from networks to AI agents. It does the heavy lifting, fixing and preventing problems before they impact your business. Splunk Observability with AI-powered detection and investigation is the future. It solves problems faster, provides greater business context, and makes your entire stack completely visible. Build digital resilience, deliver exceptional customer experiences, sleep better at night. The past was reactive. The future is proactive. Discover the power of Splunk Observability, powered by agentic AI.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Yes, we'll be chatting today in our tech talk on conquering complexity and accelerating resolution with Splunk Observability Cloud, our multi-agent experience. We'll be chatting through, quick introduction of myself. My name is Dana Lord. I'm a senior staff product marketing manager for AI and observability at Splunk, a Cisco company, and I'm joined here by V, my colleague.
Thanks, Dana. Hi, my name is V Tran, V like the letter. I'm one of the staff product managers on the AI observability team, focusing on specifically the SRE workflows.
Awesome, thanks, V. Skipping around today. We'll be chatting through a ton of innovations today. Please make your purchasing decisions based on what's available in the market today. This is a quick run through of our agenda. So we'll dive in and talk about the market context. V will provide a deep dive into the products and all the innovation that's coming out of the Splunk observability realm. And then we'll end on Q&A and share some resources. All right, so we're going to start off actually with some of the issues you all may face and some of the issues we're actually hoping to help you solve with some of our observability tooling. As you all know, applications are built in a very complex environment. The complexity is only increasing with the advent of AI. More errors can arise, which means more bottlenecks. There's more unpredictability and more unreliable outputs, which also can mean more slop. And data is also coming from everywhere. This siloed and disconnected data can lead to siloed teams, siloed monitoring, and ultimately, this means troubleshooting can be very difficult because teams are relying on scattered visibility. This means it can take too long, too many teams, too many war rooms, and too many conversations to detect, investigate, and respond to issues when they arise, especially if those answers are buried across tools. Worst case, you don't even know the issue exists and you hear it from a customer. So why does this response take so long? First, you all probably have to spend ample time upfront preparing for an incident and responding to it. It takes a lot of time setting up those observability tools based on business impact to ensure you have the right data coming in, tuning alerts, getting incident response process in place. But not doing this right means going back in the near future and then adding more instrumentation before you can even troubleshoot an incident. And so now hopefully you've done all the instrumentation and readiness correctly when there's an incident and the right people get notified before you hear about it on social media. But then you have to assess the alert, finding out whether it was a real problem, if it makes sense to act, and then assessing the impact to the business and its users, as well as the blast radius, potentially with the team to gather more context and align is going to be key here. And then comes the hard part, the investigation. So once this all happens, you've been notified, you've assessed the alert, you've gathered all the information to ensure it's a real problem and prioritize based on business impact. Now you have to investigate, which can take hours and hours of time, which means plenty of war rooms with a group of probably devs, different services, or SREs collaborating. And this is all done to understand if the problem was an app, an underlying infrastructure, all to reduce MTTX. So mean time to detection, mean time to resolution. And finally, once your teams have done that root cause analysis, figured out what needs to be fixed, it's time to fix or remediate the issue, taking a two-pronged approach, addressing the specific issue, and then making the system more resilient to similar failures. And of course, spending the right amount of time to analyze what happened post-incident and asking questions like, were there too many alerts? Did we identify the problem fast enough is key to ensuring it doesn't happen again. And this all feeds back into the readiness loop for the next incident. So we know this takes a lot of time, and having the proper tools to manage this incident response timeline is key. So how can we help you? The answer is Splunk Observability. So that's why we have Splunk, a unified platform that helps you get full visibility into your applications, your infrastructure, your digital experiences, your network, and more, to ensure digital resilience, reduce that toil of operating all of those experiences by letting software do the heavy lifting, to identify problems, find those root causes, and take corrective action. And then, of course, we have the Splunk platform, which is the engine powering the Cisco data fabric, which allows you all to get the ability to search, analyze, and investigate machine data from any source and any scale. So why Splunk Observability Cloud? Why do we love our tooling here? One, deeper business impact or context to prioritize what matters. Second, you get earlier detection and faster investigation of business impacting issues. And then third, predictable pricing and control over your data and costs. This is all underpinned by our extensive and embedded AI capabilities. So we know AI is one of the ways that you can enhance your observability tools. You're seeing this $400 billion number here, and this is the total cost of downtime for the Global 2000 annually. This is from our latest hitting cost of downtime report that we did with Oxford Economics, and this works out to about $200 million per company, which is about 9% profits. And so this is where AI can really start to help, because it's not just the cost of downtime, it's also the cost of lost revenue, lost productivity, any settlement or legal costs, et cetera, right? It all starts to add up pretty quickly. And so this is where, and this is some of the areas where our embedded AI capabilities can help. Now, this includes the use of our generative AI capabilities. So that was really put on the map with the introduction of OpenAI's ChatGPT. That is a subset of deep learning, which in and of itself is a subset of machine learning. And then all of this falls under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. All of these are applied in AI ops to, again, accelerate that incident response, reduce MTTX, and help you all hopefully continuously improve your systems and your response times. So what does this look like in real life, right? We talked about this incident response timeline. We have and will be adding AI, ML, deep learning, and Gen AI tools at each stage of this incident management workflow in Splunk Observability Cloud, all to help you reduce the amount of time involved at each of these stages, from readiness and detection and prioritization, all the way through to investigation, remediation, analysis, and continuous improvement. So before I turn it over to V to discuss some of our embedded AI or AI-powered observability tooling in depth, we'd like to know, actually, we'd like to have a poll question here for you to answer. One, we'd like to know what AI use cases are most relevant to you and your team. Is it automatic root cause analysis? Is it alert noise reduction, automatic execution of low criticality alerts, or all of the above? Or is there something else? Is there another use case that you have for AI in your team? So we'll give it a minute for you all to respond and then go through the answers. All right, we still see some answers coming in. Don't be shy.
And your input definitely helps us drive some of our roadmap related items. We want to hear directly from you what your use cases are. So you'll notice that as a theme in all of the poll questions that we asked today.
Absolutely. Great engagement. All right, so it's been about a minute. I'm going to go ahead and look at these results. Okay, so it looks like here we have all of the above. Wow. So it looks like a lot of these use cases are relevant to you and your team. So that's awesome to hear. B is going to be talking a little bit more about how we're building and how we built products for some of these use cases. And then it looks like automatic root cause analysis is another key call out here. So great insight. Thank you all for your participation. I'm going to turn it over now to V to chat about our capabilities.
Yeah, thanks, Dana, and thank you for everyone's participation. I think this rolls over really nicely into some of the work that I will be presenting today. So one of the things that's currently limited availability at the moment, available specifically to US1 regions. So please reach out to your Splunk account team or Cisco account team if this is something you're interested in within Splunk Observability Cloud. Is this concept of an AI troubleshooting agent. So what it essentially does is that automatic generation of root cause analysis. And when we say automatic, what we mean is once you've set up your detectors and it triggers a specific alert, instead of having to jump from place to place across the observability product, what you'll actually be presented with is information in human readable form of what the alert summary actually is. Let me see if this drawing tool works. And then the chain of thought that is associated with it, along with high confidence summary with what it's going to be associated with, along with the evidence that it used to correlate all of that information and telemetry across your organization. The other thing I really like to call out is once the troubleshooting agent presents some of those suspected root causes, the next step is understanding what exactly are my next steps. Now that I know what some of the suspected root causes are based off of Kubernetes and my APM services, or a combination of both. So that's where it hands it off to the remediation plan. So what the remediation plan does is takes all of that analysis, starting with the highest confidence level or any other suspected root cause that the troubleshooting agent has presented, and puts it into a thought process of, do I go this direction or that direction based off of the user input? What we've done for the LLM is be able to look across the hundreds of potential routes that it could take and narrow it down to a more concise path that it could potentially take for your next steps based off of your input, which I'll show in a demo shortly after this. What we've done is actually put a guardrail around it to focus more on what we call a human in the loop approach. And the reason we did this is while the actual next steps and resolutions are automated based off of the triggering of the AI troubleshooting agent, what we wanted to do is make sure that you as the human build trust over time what the AI can or cannot do on your behalf. So say, for example, if you have some sensitive log related data, or you have certain capabilities that are under you, under your specific out of the box role, you wouldn't necessarily always want the agent to execute on that action on your behalf. In the future, however, we will take that into consideration based off of your feedback and input on what is a safe, low critical action that AI agents can take on your behalf. But that context is shared across the board between the different agents that we are presenting at the moment. And this is also in that limited availability that I mentioned. In addition to that, all of the context that is developed through the troubleshooting agent and the remediation plan is also shared over with the AI assistant. The AI assistant in Observability Cloud is a feature that is already available, but you will need to reach out to your Splunk account team in order to enable the feature. Given that all of these are AI related features, we do add guardrails, and this is one of them just based off of customer feedback. The interaction is actually able to present to you some of the summaries that are associated with your specific alert, and that context is shared across the different agents to recommend some of the additional information that you might need in more human readable form. In addition to that, we also realize that customers like yourself really want to be able to leverage things like the MCP. So right now, the Observability Cloud Splunk MCP server is available in alpha. So if that is something that you are interested in, please reach out to your Splunk account team. So essentially what we're doing is bringing all of those different AI capabilities, including your assistant and your different agents, and developing the different agentic workflow and collaboration points that you can have. So say, for example, you have your AI assistant in the Observability Cloud platform, but then you also have your different IDEs that you want to pass some of that context into. This is where the Splunk MCP server for O11y comes into play, and all that expertise data is shared into your specific IDE and validated. So before we get into the demos and future roadmap items, I did want to take a moment to ask another poll question. We want a better understanding of which of the following is the most important guardrail needed for you to trust AI to take action on your behalf. And the reason we want to understand this is as we move into a more agentic world, there's different processes and workflows where you would want the AI to just go ahead and do it on your behalf so that you're not manually having to do it on a daily or weekly basis, whatever it might be. So we'll just give it a little bit of time for folks on the call to answer. And if you select other, please feel free to input what is the other that you're looking for. I'm seeing some submissions coming in. Maybe give it one more minute to get those answers in. Alrighty. Okay, so I see that there's quite a mix of different responses here, ranging from audit trail logs to agents having their own capabilities, human authorization for CRUD-related actions, visibility into chain of thought, and all of the above. This answer doesn't surprise me, and we are thinking through all of these as an option, such as making sure that there are audit trail logs that are being passed through the troubleshooting agent and different guardrails with the human in the loop approach for the remediation action plan. And then we are looking into some automated workflows and thinking about whether or not agents themselves should have their own roles and capabilities too. I do want to shameless plug a little bit. If you are looking for more granular controls, we do have the options of custom roles via unified identity within Splunk Observability Cloud too. So I kind of touched base a little bit on this in one of the earlier slides, but before we jump into the demo, I did want to do a quick run through just in case you needed a diagram of when you think about the outputs that the new alert page gives you. You have the alert summary, which would give you the information in human readable form of what exactly the alert is. But then in addition to that, the AI assistant will also go down the line and explain what the overall chain of thought is. And like in the last poll question, that is something that you would like insight into. A few of you would like insight into. And so it tells you what exactly the troubleshooting agent went through and looked through within your org in order to develop this specific root cause. Now, in this example, there is only one suspected root cause is the highest confidence level, but there are other versions where there could be multiple root causes with different confidence levels, and you choose the ones that you want to take the path. And then the other thing that I wanted to share is this impact summary section, where we are able to actually present to you the different services that it's impacting, or the different Kubernetes pods that it's impacting, and in the future, other applications that might be presented there. So without further ado, let's go to the demo and hope the demo gods are on my side. All right. So here I am in the observability alert page. As you can see, there's quite a bit of alerts going on here, including the one I previously showed in the screenshot. But for the purposes of this demo, all of this should look familiar to you. I will click on this specific K8's pod status detector alert that I received. As you can see, there were a lot of chain of thoughts, and because I'm making this more of like a cooking show, you can see that the chain of thought has already gone through and the root cause analysis has already been presented to you. What it essentially does is pulls all the metrics, events, logs, and traces within your organization into the troubleshooting agent for analysis. What we really like for users to have access, we know that Splunk observability is really strong in the metric space. But in addition to that, because we have the broader portfolio of Splunk itself, we also advise users to leverage the Splunk Log Observer Connect to share Splunk logs into Observability Cloud too, in order for the troubleshooting agent to have full context and be able to present the suspected root causes. As I mentioned, usually we show the high confidence level, and this is specifically a use case that's associated with Kubernetes. And then in this instance, because it is a Kubernetes related item, the impact summary has 0 services and 0 business transactions because those are APM related. Besides that, you also see the additional troubleshooting tools that you are familiar with when accessing the alerts modal today when you click on an alert, including the tips, runbooks, data links, and related content. In this instance, we only have related content and data links, but if there were runbooks associated, they would also be shared here. In addition to that, I also mentioned that you can also interact with the AI assistant. And as you can see, the AI assistant has a slightly different view now where it is open and you can leverage some of the context over on the overview side of the house into the AI assistant. Another item I wanted to point out is when you have the root cause analysis with that highest confidence, you're actually able to see the logs that are associated with that specific alert. And all of this logs context is also shared over to that remediation action plan that I mentioned. Here's an example. So on the left-hand side, you can see that there is an entry analysis where we start, and it's an image pullback related item. And then my next step is actually to analyze the pod status. So what I do is I need to click on this command in order to run, and I will just go over to my terminal in a different window and copy and paste that command. And see that there is an output. Close this. And as you can see, I did successfully go into a different version. But on the left-hand side, what it's essentially doing is thinking through, based off of what the user inputs, you'll actually see how it could potentially delineate into different sections. So based off of what I just ran, I can actually see that I need to check my registry connectivity. So I'm going to run this in my, okay. And this is what I see. Okay. And now I need to verify that the image exists. Okay, seems like the tag works. And now I go through security and it looks like I have to run another command. As you can see, this is a pretty manual process at the moment, just given that we want to put specific guardrails. But these types of graphs on the left-hand side and the steps that you go through will vary based off of the use case scenario that is presented. So I'm going to run this. And here's an example of what happens when I actually input the wrong thing. And you're actually able to see a failure message, which is actually what we want to happen. And then when you see that this actually passes, you'll see that it runs through and you'll actually get a success. So for now, I will stop sharing my screen. Oops. Actually, I will not stop sharing my screen. Excuse me. Another thing that I also wanted to point out while we're still on this page is that one of the things I mentioned previously is there can be multiple suspected root causes that can be presented to you. Under the root cause tab, you'll see the analysis for just the one with high confidence level and the action plan associated with it. But in the case where there are multiple suspected root cause, it'll sit in the evidence tab and you can actually see all the information associated with the different levels of confidence. And now I will stop sharing my screen. All right. So I said a lot of things in the demo, but there are a few things that I do want to call out. So for example, what I said was, in that example, was focusing on the Kubernetes alerts related alert. We are most strong in the pod logs, Kubernetes events, certain OTel Kubernetes metrics, CPU utilization, memory, network entities, and so on and so forth. We do highly recommend that you have some of the newer versions of the OTel collector, but we can work with you closely if you have other alternatives, such as FluentBit or FluentD. Other things also include APM alerts, where we're also a lot stronger in this early stage of limited availability, including metric sets, exemplars, different dependencies, and cross-domain scenarios where it's a combination of Kubernetes and APM-related alerts. Right now, it is only available for out-of-the-box detectors, and custom metrics are not yet available, but that is something on our roadmap. In addition to that, because we also hear a lot of value coming out of synthetics, RUM, and dbmon, that is also something that we're working on. So before I go deeper into different integrations to decide for future roadmaps, I also wanted a better understanding from this group, what are integrations during your incident response workflow that you would like for us to take into consideration? What I showed you right now is heavily focused on Kubernetes and APM, and we do have some integrations that are existing that are one direction with things like ServiceNow, and obviously we have ones with our own products such as OnCall and ITSI, and communication tools such as Slack. But we also want to look into the future, especially as we leverage the Splunk O11y MCP into what those things look like, and especially as different MCP tools come into play, how we can leverage those. So I'll give it a minute or two for you all to answer. I'll just give it a few more seconds. All right. Okay, so it looks like we have a lot of different answers coming out of this. Thankfully, a lot of these things are on our roadmap. So say, for example, Splunk OnCall, our own product, and then PagerDuty, of course, is another integration point that we also have available for Splunk O11y, Splunk Observability Cloud today, but we are also looking into how that flow would work. And then our own products as ITSI, and then I know a lot of customers will use ServiceNow as their CMDB or ITSM tool. It looks like communication tools are also quite up there, along with CI/CD tooling and GitLab and GitHub, which is also another thing that we're looking into heavily too. I am kind of surprised to see that runbooks living in Atlassian, Confluence, or Google Drive or similar tools is not chosen at all, considering that's something I've heard quite a bit of. Say I have an existing runbook, can I just tell my agent to have knowledge of this runbook so that I'm not getting paged? So I'm surprised to see that, but maybe those people didn't want to input the answers in time. So this is good information. And now we will go to the Q&A section.
Awesome. Thanks, V. So yeah, now it's time for Q&A. So if you all have any questions for us, please use the chat box. We'll answer as many questions as we can given the time. But we'll start off with one just to get the conversation flowing. So V, how do we get access to some of these capabilities?
Yeah, so it depends on the capability, but one thing remains true, please work with your Splunk or Cisco account management team. They will have the insight into reaching out to myself or other folks that are driving those different product features. Just because there's a lot of privacy related things when it comes around AI. And so we know with certain customer organizations, there's certain things we even have to fill out on our end in order to enable you all. Because AI is just an amazing space to be in, but it is still a relatively new one.
Absolutely. We want to make sure you all are safely and responsibly using our AI tooling. So definitely reach out to your Splunk reps or your Cisco reps. And then second question here. So will there be agents for other parts of the incident management workflow? So we saw that there is a troubleshooting agent. Will there be other agents hopefully in the future?
Yeah, that is a goal. Agent everything in the agentic workflow is definitely something that we're working through along with everybody else in the world at this point, regardless of what industry that you're in. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, when you are on call, instead of getting paged for every single alert, we are finding different ways in order to reduce that noise, whether it be through the troubleshooting and remediation agents, the AI assistant to get more information, or different forms of detector set up in order to make that process a lot less noisy and more straightforward for you.
Awesome. Thank you. And then another question here. So the AI assistant, where's that data coming from?
Yeah, so the AI assistant has different contexts based off of different open AI models that we have access to that are listed on our website. But in addition to that, we also follow different frameworks where we share information and context across the organization, such as your metrics, events, logs, and traces, and then any context that the troubleshooting agent or remediation agent has access to.
Awesome.
It looks like one concern actually came in, and maybe this is something for us to fix too. Some of our poll questions might be off because there was an option for other, but there wasn't an option to select multiple. So yes. It looks like some folks might actually be wanting to say all of the above plus something else. So something for us to keep in mind. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the other is. So in case you were one of those people that press select all and other, please feel free to just put whatever the other is in the Q&A box, and we'll just assume it's not you asking us the question, but giving us additional context.
Absolutely. So if you wanted a reminder into the questions, one of the questions was about integrations with other tooling. The other question was around AI use cases. And then the final question, V, if you could help me or remind me, it was around, here it was, trusting AI, like which guardrail would be the most important.
Right.
So yes, if you have any other responses to those, please feel free to use the chat box. One other question here. So we have embedded AI capabilities, but do we have observability for AI capabilities? Yes, we do. So we also have embedded AI capabilities that B talked about, but observability for AI capabilities. So our AI agent monitoring capability just became generally available. Again, please reach out to your Splunk rep about that. And then we also have our AI infrastructure monitoring capabilities as well. There was a webinar last week on that. So for more information, feel free to look at that webinar from last week on March 5th, as well as other resources that were shared in that webinar. Any other questions before we move forward and share resources?
And specifically for that O11y observability for AI aspect that Dana was referring to, if you are an APM customer specifically, if you click on APM on your left-hand navigation, you should be able to see AI agent monitoring with the little tab that says new on it. That's what we're referring to.
Yes.
And because I know this comes up quite a bit, if you are an existing Observability Cloud customer, there is no additional charge for you for the foreseeable future as far as all of these AI capabilities goes. So I did want to let all of you know, as long as you're interested, we are happy to work with you to enable these capabilities.
And this is for the capabilities that V shared earlier.
For the ones that I shared, for the troubleshooting and remediation work, and then the AI assistant, yes.
Yes. Awesome. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, so I'm gonna close on a few resources here. So we do have extensive documentation. So if you head to our Splunk documentation site, that's where you can learn more about the AI troubleshooting agent and remediation plan and Splunk Observability Cloud. We also released some blogs around the AI troubleshooting agent and remediation plan. Essentially everything that we talked about here, part of that is covered in the blogs. And then also we have a second blog on alerts, detectors, and service level objectives. That is also very important and key here for the capabilities that we went through.
And these are I did want to mention this presentation is being recorded and will be shared out for those of you who missed portions of it or want to share with your friends.
There was a question here. Is there a version restriction?
I wanted to ask for clarification on which version you're referring to, the OTel collector version, or that's the more information that I needed to, but Splunk Observability Cloud is a SaaS-based platform, and so we push very regularly, and so you should have access to every tooling. The only exception is these different AI capabilities, just given the discretion that we have, do require some outreach into the account team in order to enable the features. But we do ask that the preference is having the newer versions of the OTel collector, Log Observer Connect, just in case you do want that additional logs context. Metrics and traces are strong, but logs also always helps booster the suspected root cause hypotheses.
Absolutely. And then the documentation should have some step-by-step instructions or more information about the versions that you should have, at least the latest ones.
Yeah.
Cool. And then continuing the conversation on community.splunk.com, please go there. There are answers to common questions that folks like you have about our Splunk Observability Cloud capabilities. There's best practices. There's also community office hours. So there's actually one next week on what we covered this week on the all the embedded AI capabilities, as well as last week on our observability for AI capabilities. Please check that out. But there's a ton of other community office hours that happen throughout the months and years here. And then discussions with product experts, with folks in the company if you have additional questions or want to discuss things about the product. And then if you have any ideas, right? A lot of your insight here and the questions that you answered helps the product team with building these capabilities and making sure we offer you the best product. So please share your ideas, search for request enhancements to the solution so that the product team can build the solutions that make you happy. And then finally, upcoming tech talks and office hours. So I did mention we have a community office hours next week, March 19th, on everything that we've covered here, as well as our observability for AI capabilities from last week's webinar. That will be with 2 other experts in our Splunk org. Please join us for that. And then we have a series on our unified observability. It starts with a tech talk on digital experience analytics. Great things there. Please check those out and sign up for those. And of course, AI is a conversation that we have all the time here at Splunk. There is, I guess, a college game day analyst and Splunk guy. So talking all about how the Splunk March Madness prediction engine was built. Check that out. It's a cool, really cool event. Scan the QR code there to register and get started talking about March Madness and Splunk. And then finally, we love to have validation here about our AI capabilities. Customers like Repay love our embedded AI capabilities, particularly the AI assistant. They've said, like, quote, it's like having a subject matter expert at their fingertips. And so having customer stories like this is really important so that you all can learn more. So feel free to scan that QR code there for an on-demand webinar to learn more about how Repay is using the AI assistant in Observability Cloud. Awesome. And that's all from us today. Thank you so much for your time and your engagement. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next one.
Thank you all for your time. See you in the next one.
Bye.